Hello and welcome to the Team VVV Racing Game Podcast. I'm Martin and joining me as ever is Kevin
Hi guys.
and Alan.
Hello viewers.
Right, so kicking off, this week sees the release of Carmageddon Max Damage, something a little bit different compared to some of the more hardcore racing games we cover, something a bit lighthearted. We've actually played it. We also have a developer interview looking back at the first few games and also the new game on the site this week, so do look out for that. So Kevin, what are your thoughts so far on it?
Lots of fun, I mean, it was always going to be fun, wasn't it? It's a Carmageddon title after all.
Yep.
And you have to sort of go into it and put your sort of sensible cap down and just sort of dive into it and have a bit of fun. And
Exactly.
It's not a game that you should really be taking to offence or being offended by it. So you can just happily run over those pedestrians in wheelchairs and have a bit of fun. But I've put a few hours into the game and I'm impressed so far. There seems to be a decent amount of modes and stuff to sort of get stuck into, but we've got plenty more videos coming up shortly as well, so going to be exploring those modes in more detail.
Yeah, I mean, it's refreshing to play something a bit mindless. I mean, I think the racing genre has been flooded quite a bit lately with quite serious
Yeah,
racing.
absolutely.
It kind of takes you back to that era.
It does, and it's these sort of silly games that sort of got us into the racing genre in the first place. So yeah, it was nice. It was almost like booting up a retro game, like you say, and just having a bit of fun for a change. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah,
I mean, at the
looking
time,
at it, yeah, go mine.
I was going to say, I mean, at the time when Carmageddon was out, I mean, the car combat genre was really booming. You had games like Destruction Derby, Vigilante 8, Twisted Metal, all those kind of things, and now it's just, well, nothing. So,
Yeah, I mean, we
definitely
used
come
to
out at the
have
right
more.
time.
Exactly. I mean, we had quite a few arcade games years ago, but I would say one of the things that I would like to see more of. I mean, I haven't played it yet. I've just watched Kevin's video, and there's not as many people to run over. I was hoping there'd be like fields of people, really.
Yeah.
And a good example was, again, our favourite always, Driver San Francisco, where
Yeah.
you had loads of pedestrians like along the beach and everything. It was really
You
amazing.
couldn't run them over, they'd always run out of your way
They would
miraculously.
always dodge. They would always dodge. No matter
Yeah.
how. I mean, I did some amazing moves to handbrake turn, spin, just as I was going to hit them, maximise opportunity, and they'd like
Yeah, just
literally
superhuman abilities.
yeah. Woo! No, I think at the moment, I mean, first impressions are, well, it's a Carmageddon game, and it is what it is. But I think handling wise, I mean, it looks like it's very arcadey, spinny car. I mean, would we be happier with more physics on the car or not? And also graphically, I mean, obviously we've talked about already the fact that it can't look too realistic because obviously that wouldn't be good in terms of content. But having said that, from a technical perspective, just looking at the video early on, it seems like it could, I wish it kind of ran a bit smoother. And that's one of the things is like, me, 60 frames, I'm always going to moan about it, but I would like a little bit of smoother presentation there. Have you guys found it sort of visually, you found it playable, but not necessarily spectacular?
Yeah, I think that sums it up. I mean, it does look a bit dated, I would say, but
Yeah.
you have to factor in the fact it is a very small studio.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not going to have the same sort of kind of resources as some of the larger developers.
Yeah. I mean, regarding the amount of people, going back to what Alan was just saying, it is actually very difficult to, like, you can win the event by running over every single pedestrian, but you try that and it seems almost impossible.
It takes a long time to do that. I spent about 20 minutes just going
Did you
around the map trying to find everyone.
Did you actually manage it there?
No.
No, exactly. It's very hard to do. So if there was a lot more people,
I was on the stadium map, and you have to go up a ramp to actually go into the stadium itself and run people in the seats.
I don't know.
It does take
It would be
doing
nice
do
to
that.
see sort of Dead Rising 3 levels of people, I guess, and just sort of mow through them all. But I guess there's technical limitations there, and I don't believe that the pedestrians are in the online mode because of those technical issues. So it's understandable that the numbers have been kept sort of to a minimum to keep the frame rate up, which they obviously struggled before with Reincarnation.
I was going to say, going back to the frame rate, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it could be smoother, but it's miles better than Reincarnation. I mean,
I didn't have any major hang-ups with it at all. I thought it ran smoothly, considering what was going on, with arms, legs, and blood splatting everywhere, and all that
max
sort of
damage,
stuff.
you mean?
Yeah, max damage.
Yeah.
I didn't actually manage to play Reincarnation, so I
Well,
mean,
no one could play it. That was the problem.
yeah, it was
So
poorly optimized. Yeah.
it was just virtually unplayable whenever I tried. I mean, my PC is not the best, but
Yeah, I mean,
I've heard other people with higher spec PCs even struggle to get it running at 30 frames, let alone
yeah.
60.
I mean, it's a nice gesture that they're giving out max damage for free for those that have already purchased Reincarnation. I feel like it was probably the right
I
thing.
wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not quite sure how different it actually is to Reincarnation, to be honest. I'll have to look into it a bit more. But to me, I think max damage is basically the
fixed version.
Yeah,
Or
the
should have been,
definitive version of what they wanted to release, I think, with Reincarnation a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It still has a massive fan base. I mean, if you look at the Kickstarter from Reincarnation, it went way over its target. So
yeah,
I think it'll sell well.
That's the thing, I mean, I remember selling you Carmageddon when I worked in a retail shop 20 odd years ago, and it was banned in Germany. So you get all these kids come over from Germany, and they were like Carmageddon, and what was it, Command and Conquer Red Alert, with the two sort of big games that weren't available there. So they'd all try and buy them, and so you'd get like these 15-year-old kids trying to buy it, and I'd have to say, no, mate, where's your ID? No. And, it's funny how that 18 certificate on there just made it sell, and it created a cult audience. It still has a cult following, and I'm sure many of the people that listen to our content, there's a portion that remember that and enjoy it and enjoy the Mad Max style automotive craziness of it, and there are those that obviously will like their pure motorsport. But I think sometimes it's nice to pop your brain out of your head, pop that into a jar, enjoy a basic video game, and then get back into it. But I look forward to seeing more of your videos, Kevin, and also seeing what they have lined up in terms of multiplayer, because I think the multiplayer modes are going to be key in terms of longevity.
Did any of you guys play the originals?
Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time with Carmageddon 1.
Yeah.
Not so much time with number 2. But at the time, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was only a kid myself, I think, and
were you actually old enough to play the game?
It was shocking back then. Probably not legally, no. But, it was.
No, I wasn't either.
I mean, if you go back now and look at it, it's incredibly basic graphically. But back then, it was graphic to us at the time. It was shocking. It had that shock value, and that's why it made headlines all over the world. But shall we talk a little bit about the vehicle handling? What we think so far for max damage?
Yeah, I mean, I've not really tried enough of the cars yet, if I'm honest. But from the initial cars you get, I'm finding it to be quite heavy handling sometimes, like not quite what I was expecting.
Yeah, it's almost like you're driving on ice at times. But I've only experimented with lighter stuff. But I do
quite accessible arcadey handling, don't you?
Yeah, I would like to maybe get a little bit more sort of realism in the handling, but it is what it is. But I do enjoy the handbrake turns in the game, I must admit. You get a nice sort of level of control with it, so it'd be interesting to test out the bigger stuff and like the big trucks and that, see if it applies to that as well. I need to
it's good fun going to the stadium, for example, and just applying the handbrake and just splattering everyone.
That's it, yeah.
The well-executed handbrake turn. But I think it's also fair to say they haven't lost their sense of humour either.
No, there's some quite naughty words on the screen. That you got to be careful not to repeat it when you're making videos, at least. But yeah, it's very tongue-in-cheek, and there's some good play on words and a good bit of humour there. Definitely.
We can't not talk about the power-ups.
Yeah, I mean, one thing with the power-ups that maybe I feel could be improved is it'd be nice to see maybe the power-up icon instead of just like the red barrel, and it's sort of like a lottery, isn't it, what you get? And
yeah, that's true.
I'm not sure if there's a tutorial that actually goes through the different power-ups. I'm going to have a look at that, because that would be nice to have, because at the moment it's just sort of you get a certain power-up and you're pressing the button and you're not sure what it's doing. Is it going to attack the cars? Is it going to attack the people? So there's a little bit of confusion there that maybe could be better explained with some tutorials and stuff like that.
I really like the damage modelling as well. They've really gone to town with that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got another video coming up where the car splits I mean, I've had the car split in lengthways, but this one it's widthways, and it was like, do you know, Wreckfest in your video when you're sort of totaling the car, but you're still able to drive. So I basically had like the bonnet portion and the front wheels, and I was still able to drive. So yeah, it's quite funny.
Would you say it's as good as Wreckfest for damage?
I don't think anything's as good as Wreckfest for damage, to be honest.
Good answer.
You know, yeah, it was better than I expected, quite a bit better than I expected. So you know, it made for some fun moments, shall we say? And you know, yeah, really happy with what they've done. You know, I'm surprised actually how decent the damage is. Have you managed to split your car yet?
Oh yeah, several times. Yeah. I would also say as well that the loading times, it takes an age to load the game. I mean, we're talking almost ride loading times.
Yeah, I tell you what, when it was loading, I was thinking of Ride actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, you know, the future patches could maybe speed it up, or I mean, I don't mind waiting a little bit because it's Carmageddon. You know, it's fun and you know, it's
just something I noticed because obviously the graphics aren't the most advanced, and I guess with the damage tech and things like that, and the open.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot going on behind the scenes with the calculations and whatnot. So you sort of give it a pass, don't you? Because you realise what's going on, and you know, you sort of it doesn't bother me personally.
No, is it me that just finds it a bit weird when you're driving through the city levels and there's no traffic, but there's pedestrians everywhere?
Yeah, I guess they sort of close the road to cars.
Yeah.
For safety, and then just let all the pedestrians wander around. You know, doesn't quite make sense, but hey, that's Carmageddon for you. If you try to look for sense, you know, you're not going to find it.
Yeah, I'm reading too much into it, aren't I?
Yeah.
That's just me. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how well it sells on launch.
It's probably I hope it does well. I hope the reviewers give it a good chance, and you know, don't be too critical because maybe they haven't got the point of the game. You know, you really have to understand the whole point of the game. It's a bit of fun. It's not to be taken too seriously. Yeah, it doesn't take itself too seriously. Yeah, yeah, I think it'll do pretty well based on what I've seen so far. I hope it does.
It's been nearly 20 years since it last came out on console, actually.
Yeah, unbelievable, isn't it?
I mean, 2 and 3 were 2 and 3 were PC only. So yeah, I just think well, we've got a developer interview coming up for Carmageddon that goes into the backstory and what you can expect from Max Damage. So anyway, should we do some news?
News.
Anyone got any news?
News? Well, I thought we were going to do the website news, Martin.
Okay, fine, I'll lead.
I will kick off with some news then. So obviously last week we had the new Red Pack being announced for Assetto Corsa. I think it's really interesting, the DLC for Assetto Corsa, because a few weeks ago they announced the Porsche, which is great, the 2 Porsche packs, fantastic cars, which you know are going to have fantastic handling. And of course now announcing a new track pack with new cars as well. And we haven't seen all the cars yet, but announcing the A1 ring, it's a great circuit, it's not huge, but it's really nicely modelled. I mean, one guy has made the circuit. You know, I always like to underline that one guy makes each circuit, and so he's made this. It will probably be the most perfect version of the A1 ring, of the Red Bull ring, sorry, you see anywhere. And of course, it showed the 2015 Ferrari Formula 1 car, which was a huge surprise.
Yeah,
Ferrari let them have such a recent car.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess they have a very long-standing relationship.
They do.
Ferrari,
yeah, they do. I mean, obviously, they're Italian company. You know, based their good relationship with Ferrari. They made the after Netcar Pro, they made Ferrari Virtual Academy a few years ago.
That's right.
And so they have an excellent relationship, and you can bet that car handling will be the definitive handling in terms of F1 games. It'll be really interesting to see how it works. Also, I don't know if I don't think there's going to be a livery editor in the actual game, unlike modders on the PC, which is a shame because then you could see people painting their own liveries onto that Ferrari to create a whole grid. So, you know, in terms of F1 circuits now, I think they've got about 5 F1 circuits in the game now, which is what they got. They got Silverstone, they got Spa, they got Nürburgring, they got A1 Ring, and I'm sure there's a Monza as well. So it's really good. They've got 5 F1 circuits made by that one guy in the game. And other cars, there's going to be some exceptional cars in this pack, but what I think's really good about this is that they're getting it all in their pre-launch. So even though they've delayed the game, they've now made it an even better game for it. So I think come late August, it's going to be a very special simulator, and it will be really interesting, I think, for console gamers to see how they get on. But the one thing that we still don't know yet is how does it handle on a controller. Now, it doesn't matter if you've played it on the PC version. They're working really hard to make sure it adapts well to console, and no doubt effort is going in there to make it better. I think it'll be okay, but we'll just have to wait and see. I haven't tried it with controller yet, but having said that, it's definitive to be played with a wheel, because it's a real car simulator. Absolutely. So that's an important note.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got to be honest, this game just gets better and better for me all the time from what I keep reading about it. It's certainly become one of my most anticipated console racers out there. In fact, I'd probably say at the moment I'm more excited about Assetto Corsa than I am Gran Turismo Sport.
Yeah, same here.
It's a pure driving experience.
Yeah, because you feel like, you know, with Gran Turismo, it's got a very sort of specific handling model. It's quite a safe sort of handling model, whereas Assetto Corsa is, you know, going much more for the realism stuff. So it'd be nice to jump in a Ferrari FXX or whatever and actually feel, you know, what it really should feel like. And you know, it's got fantastic audio as well, which GT Sport doesn't have at the moment. So it's, you know, graphically it looks good as well. So you just know you're going to get, you know, decent graphics, decent physics, and decent sound. All three boxes checked with Assetto Corsa. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Yeah,
I mean, the thing I like about a game like Assetto Corsa is that a beginner will be able to drive around, you know, in a Fiat 500 or something, wheeze around the track. But when you get into the faster, more complex cars, driving it is one thing, driving it fast is another thing entirely, and you begin to realise whoa, there's really like a knife edge in terms of hanging on. I did a video a couple of years ago with the McLaren 12C GT, and you know, I was right on the limit of where, you know, I could drive it at that time, and I remember thinking, you know, you feel it, that knife edge, and there's people said to me, what's the difference between project cars? There's more feeling of traction and stability on Assetto Corsa. You feel more in contact with the road. Not only that, but some cars in project cars handle really well. Some cars don't handle as well. They still have a little bit of shifty handling, some of them. So it's you know, and I think the Pagani Huayra is a good example of a car that just understeers around every corner in the most ridiculous way. So I think in terms of handling, it takes some adapting to. You need to put some time into it to understand it and maximize it. But I think our videos, I mean, I'll work quite hard on it near a launch. I'll put in a load of laps and see if I can work my way around and then sort of help viewers with the nuances. Yes, a lot of our viewers and listeners will be expert racing games, but there's, you know, what's important about Assetto Corsa is we get people into sim racing, because only by people being able to play it and it's selling will it succeed. Otherwise, if games like this fail, the consoles, the games companies are going to say, you know what, we tried a simulator, you know, it didn't work, we're going to stick with Need for Speed, and that's what will happen, you know, if it doesn't. So it's important that these small developers get the opportunity, and that also that Project Cars wasn't just a flash in the pan in that way. So very interesting, and I would like to see where, if it does sell well, I'd like to see how they continue to support the title and how they add to it in the future, because it has huge potential. But that's definitely
Project Cars sold pretty well, so I think there is room for encouragement. There is definitely demand for racing simulations on console, it seems.
Well, it is. It's not as big as Project Cars, and I think that in terms of sales, if it can manage 50% of what Project Cars did, I think they'll be very happy. You know, Project Cars did exceptionally well, but then it had a huge audience behind it. You know, in terms of the WMD members. Yeah,
exactly. Assetto Corsa is more like the underdog, I think, in this race.
Yeah, to an extent it is, and it's not as well known. Yes, the PC gamers know about it. No console gamers. I mean, I saw it mentioned on YouTube, and you know, most console gamers, they've heard of Need for Speed, Forza, Gran Turismo. If they play it, if their friends play it, they'll buy it. If their friends aren't playing Assetto Corsa, they're not interested. So it's that middle ground, and that, you know, I think you'll probably find a more mature player plays, an older, more mature player plays Assetto Corsa, a younger player will lean towards Forza Motorsport or whatever. So it's it takes time to get into that type of game. But yeah, I think it'd be great to see Kunos get it out there, and hopefully it won't have the sort of bugs that Project Cars had. And I think they've taken it back to really work on the console versions and make sure they're tip top. So one hopes that bugs wise that it's kept to a minimum as well.
Yeah, I still have memories of my first laps on Project Cars. My wheel kept breaking for no reason. As in my right tire would just suddenly not work, and I'd veer into the grass for no reason.
Yeah, I mean there were wheel issues and everything with it, and that was a real
massive, really jarring bugs with that
one. I think what's quite frustrating was some of the things that were highlighted way before launch. It's like, no, that's all fixed in time for launch, so that's irrelevant. Okay, that's fine. And of course, half of it wasn't fixed in time for launch, which was a big pain. But no, that is always the thing about previews. You know, I've played preview games that are perfect 3 months before launch, and then they're broken when they come out. And I've played others that are a mess, and then they're fixed day one. And I've seen games go from being terrible to being mind-blowing in a matter of weeks before launch over the years. So it is always difficult to predict when all the pieces come together from all the different studios that make a game to see how they fit together, you know. But I think Project Cars had weather and times of day and all that sort of stuff that's not in Assetto Corsa. So it was a big project.
24 cars on the grid.
Yeah. So they had a lot of cars. You know, a lot to deal with there, but it's still hugely impressive, you know. So
was it 24 actually? Was it more than that?
I think it was up to. I think it's more than that. I can't remember the exact number now, how many cars you can have, but yeah, it was a lot of cars.
It's been crazy.
Generally speaking, I never really ran with that. I mean, I don't right now run with that many cars. I tend to run with about 15, 16 cars. That's the most I want.
Yeah.
When you're racing around Monaco, it's horrible because you just got cars everywhere. Especially when you're racing around in anything but an open wheel car, because when you're in like big Le Mans cars, they just don't fit and they don't go around the slow corners very well. So Monaco is quite tricky. I mean, Porsche racing around Monaco must be really tough. But so we hope that Assetto Corsa is going to really be another real sort of player in the game in terms of the titles that are out there, and obviously it's competing this year with Forza Horizon, completely different game. So in terms of Xbox, they know the Xbox version has got to be tip top because they have real opportunity there. Obviously, where PS4 is concerned,
Xbox.
I can't remember. He did mention in the interview actually how many Ps it's going to be, but generally speaking, I don't tend to notice a difference much between 900 and 1080. I will notice a difference in reality of it. So frame rate for me is everything, and of course 60 frames is and really nice replays as well. And as Kevin mentioned, it's got cracking audio. So yeah, one to look forward to there. No doubt we'll see more updates on that at Gamescom in August as well. Talking of A1 Ring, of course, we had the reveal of F1 2016's A1 Ring, the weekend, and it seemed a bit underwhelming, if I'm honest. I did the comparison video of 2015 and 2016, and thanks for that lap, Kevin. And actually, 2020. F1 2015 kind of looked a bit more colourful, a bit more shiny, a bit more to it. Just looked a bit nicer. And lots of people said to me, "Oh, well, they relayed the tarmac." Well, I know they've relayed tarmac, but they have had, support races and hundreds and hundreds of laps of tyre marks.
Exactly.
And the white lines everywhere. Well, they were going over the white lines and the rumble strips. They were all black, even though there'd been rain. So there's a life to a circuit, and in the F1 games they just don't have that life, and that could be texture limitations, memory limitations, all that kind of stuff.
The sun flare effects as well in 2016 weren't quite up to scratch compared to 2015. Certain things 2016 does better, and certain things 2015 does better. So at the end of the day, though, it's all about the content that 2015 was lacking. So
2015 was severely lacking in content, and we'll see. But it seems to me that it's had a brief tidy up. And other than that, they've put all their resource into the new content. So I don't know what the handling's going to be like, or especially the PC version. But I've
seen wheels locking up and stuff, so it'd be interesting to see how that
That's
turns
nice
out.
to see. Yeah, it seems like they've made some improvements there. So I do look forward to seeing how that turns out. But yeah, that's an interesting one there. And of course, roll on Silverstone. I'm sure they'll show a Silverstone video, and likely we'll look at another comparison of that when we see it, just to see again what progress, if any, has been made. So let's talk next up now. I think for Martin, we've got a bit of Top Gear news. You're a Top Gear news expert. Evans quits Top Gear due to some kind of sex scandal that seems to have come up in the 90s. It doesn't seem like the question is, did he quit Top Gear first, or did the scandal come up first? It seems that the scandal came up first, and then
I think that's true.
Whatever it is, it's serious. But I think what it is that he was probably on his last legs on the show. He's doing everybody's head in, and then this came up, and he realised, you know what, my position is untenable. I've got to go.
He quit before he was pushed.
Well, exactly. I mean, he wears those stupid boots, and I don't know what they're all about. But
he never changes his clothes.
No, stupid boots.
He has so much money, and he can't afford any more clothes.
He probably spends it all on his Ferraris and countless cars in his garage.
In the garage. They never go anywhere. They just sit in the garage, in his white garage that looks nice. He has a sofa at the end, and he likes to sit in the garage and look at the cars quite often. Yeah. That's what he does. But yeah, I mean, I think that I got the feeling that socially there wasn't a flow between him and the rest of the team, and it wasn't going anywhere.
It takes time to build up relationship. And
it does.
Or
yeah, the rumour has it they just didn't get on.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I did hear those rumours. So perhaps it was just the final nail in the coffin sort of thing. So.
Well, it's about being the star. I think he just wants to be the star of the show, and
the big shouty star.
The big shouty star. I'm in charge. I'm Chris Evans, and it's Tier 5 Friday Mark II.
Even more shouty.
Yeah, more shouty.
I mean, do you think Matt LeBlanc could take over? I mean, do you think he's got the personality to carry that show as the sort of lead guy?
Not for me. Not for me.
I don't think he does. Personally.
No, he's too quiet. He's too laid back. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
And a big cheesy smile.
This car is any good?
He almost
let me get my cigar. It's just a bit slow for me, and I feel that it's all right sometimes, but sometimes he just doesn't have any energy of enthusiasm. I was really enjoying this car, and it's like, were you really enjoying it, or not? And I sometimes just watch him and think, I tell you what, who enjoys a car? Chris Harris enjoys a car. The body language of the car, the way he drives it, his enthusiasm for it, his knowledge for it. Man, that guy just breathes automotive goodness. And I think that's what Chris Harris, for me, I love his videos on YouTube. And I love his bits on it as well. And I think for me, Chris Harris is head and shoulders the best part about it. But the funny thing is that he's more like classic Top Gear. So I think Top Gear is perhaps he's more of a car show man than he is an entertainer. And I think Top Gear has changed a bit purely because of the chemistry.
Is he a bit too cynical to sort of take a lead role?
I don't think they've replaced Clarkson for a lead presenter yet. No, I think they need to find someone who's again relaxed in who they are, not needing to prove a point. And
should we just say Tiffany Dell?
Well, Tiffany Dell's brilliant. I think
I'd love to see him coming.
I think
he is looking for work at the moment. So
bring him in.
Tiff would be brilliant. He's been on Top Gear before, and when he was on Top Gear years ago, he's my head and shoulders my favourite part of Top Gear at the time. I loved him, throwing around cars. And I see him and Chris Harris getting on like a house on fire.
Yeah.
I think. And we got who else we got on there? We got Sabine Schmitz and Rory and Sabine Schmitz. Yeah, Rory Reid and Sabine Schmitz. I haven't seen the episode of Sabine. I mean, I've met Sabine in real life. We had a good old chat, and I interviewed her years ago, and she's a really nice lass. But I found that she wasn't as spontaneous in terms of, you know,
she seems a bit uncomfortable in the studio. In front of the camera, in a car, she's, you know, in her element.
In a car, she's in her element, but
she's a great driver, but not necessarily a great presenter.
No, and I found that when I was interviewing her years ago, she was for want of a better word, a bit inarticulate in the interview. I couldn't get out the interview. I remember going to this interview wanting something out of it at the time, and I walked away and I wasn't able to get enough energy. And I think what it is sometimes, you know, when I was interviewing people, I would occasionally, I'd think of something that would perhaps annoy them or piss them off in some way, so that I would get something out of them, and they would suddenly realise I've researched them, and some energy would come out. And I think with her, I just couldn't at the time. And I was interviewing Johnny Herbert as well at the GT Academy, and with Johnny it was great. You know, we got on like house on fire, and I fired things at him, and I remember with Johnny Herbert, and I'm going off topic here, but I remember with Johnny Herbert, I said to him, you were teammates with Rubens Barrichello in '98 at Stewart GP. I said, you know, that year, I said, Rubens was better than you for that year. But at the Nürburgring that year, I said, you won in tricky conditions, you put on the wet tyres and went and won the race. I said, did it piss him off that he beat you virtually all year in qualifying, and that then you just went and won a race before him? And he couldn't match that. And I remember he looked at me like, you know, I think it was a proper F1 fan sort of question, because it's the sort of thing you say at home. But that was quite entertaining. So then you get something going. I remember I did a similar thing with Carl Fogarty. He was a similar chap who, when you interviewed him, it was hard to get anything out of. He was quite laid back. Yeah, I don't really care about biking anymore, really. I mean, that's basically it. He just lost his love of biking, and then I just said something to him, and I'm not going to say what it is, that sort of annoyed him. And then after that, we had a cracking interview. So right, actually, I can say, basically, I said to him, did it annoy you that you got overlooked Sports Personality of the Year, knowing full well it did? And yeah, that got him into it. He got his agent into it as well, but when we settled it down, we were okay. So yeah, I think as a presenter, we had Rory doing the Mustang, nearly killing himself pulling out behind the truck. I don't know how close that was meant to be. It looked a bit close to me. No. It was all staged, but it was still very close. So yeah, Mustang. I'm quite a Mustang fan myself.
Oh, me too.
And
I watch bullets every day.
I was looking into buying a Mustang years ago, and and the problem was always, yeah, you could get a Mustang really cheap in America. You could import it, but you know, driving what is it? A left-hand drive in the UK is really, really impractical, especially when it's a car that wide. I mean, it's as wide as a Range Rover or whatever. It's huge. And you can't see the end of your bonnet. You can't see it. And in London or wherever, cyclists and everything, goodness knows. So it may not be Mustang heritage, but I, for one, have always wanted a right-hand drive. And I think the V8 is, well, you go for the V8. I mean, the EcoBoost is irrelevant to me. It's just absolutely irrelevant. It needs to be a V8. It's a shame.
You don't buy a Mustang for economy, let's be honest.
Well, you don't buy a Mustang for economy.
It's a contradiction, isn't it? Yeah.
I do wish that Ford would create a Mustang V8 that had some kind of fuel save mode on it. So you could, you know, if it had some kind of electrical system on it or something like that, you're cruising on the motorway, you know, you switch on some system and it saves some energy or something like that.
In other words, make it a hybrid like the i8.
Well, is that, well, yeah, I mean, not well,
to a degree.
No, to an extent that would work, because when you're on, if you could switch on the hybrid system, I mean, put it this way, a V8 engine is great when you're cruising around slow streets, people going, wow, what's that? And you're like, yeah. But when you're on the motorway, no one cares, they can't hear you. Or if they can't, then just, you know, put on the electric energy system and save yourself some fuel, you know, because it does munch through fuel. But having said that, I looked at a lot of fuel economy on the car, done a lot of studying on it, and it really burns fuel in the first 3 gears, as any car would. But if you can get on the motorway and get it up, you know, to a high 6th gear, you know, as quick as you can, it actually is amazingly economical. It just sort of chugs along, and it just rolls, basically. So in terms of fuel, if you're driving a lot on a freeway, motorway, it's a great car, and fuel-wise, it's not too bad. But if you're driving in a built-up city centre, stopping and starting, then it's a big, heavy beast, and it takes a lot to get going. So,
it's a bit like my Alpha's like that. It's just the economy is just absolutely terrible in town driving.
Yeah.
It's really not a car built for that, in my case.
No.
On the motorway, it's a dream.
Exactly. I mean, it's so handy on the motorway. I mean, you get up into sixth gear and you're kind of floating along, really. It's something, when it's that style of car. But unfortunately, yes, in the first couple of gears, it does tend to burn up. And if you're
driving with cruise control still freaks me out sometimes.
Sorry?
I was just going to say, driving with cruise control on the motorway does still freak me out sometimes, though.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. I think it always is in a way. It depends on the car, but yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly. I just like to be in control. Cruise control. I suppose there's also something to be said about keeping alert. I'm the sort of person I like to be alert. When I'm driving, the faster I'm going, the more alert I am when I'm driving. But I just like to, be alert on the motorway, and I just find it's a part of me being a part of the car. So. That's all part of the fun of driving. It's like manual gears. I like manual gears. I like having the control of the car in a way. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times I've got friends who have been driving manual gears all their lives, and they say, "Alan, I've got an automatic. It's amazing. It's I wouldn't go back." And I have quite a few friends who have gone into automatic cars now and said, I wouldn't bother going back. And, but then again, from my perspective, I've done a few track day sessions and all that sort of stuff, and it's when you're jumping into different cars. And I think a good example of the rallying I did earlier this year was you've got some terrible gearboxes to get used to very quickly, and it helps if you're just used to using a stick shift, So I think back to the Mustang. I mean personally, I like the new Mustang. I like what Ford are doing. I just wish they had added some kind of fuel-saving element to the main V8 car. And it sounds stupid in a way, doesn't it? V8 saving in a V8, but I think it would work really well, and it would retain that V8 realness of a Mustang, but with a little bit of fuel saving here and there, a bit of energy support would work well.
So I just want a Mustang so I can pretend I'm in Bullet.
That's it.
That's just me.
Bullet, not Vanishing Point, because the Vanishing Point he dies. Sorry.
Good point.
But if you haven't seen it now, it's 40 years old. It's quite a depressing ending, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, the whole journey was wasted.
Yeah, I know. You think it's going somewhere. It's so exciting, and then suddenly dead, and it's like, oh, what's happened? Is that it? Is it in credits? Right. Okay. There you go then. So there we are. Spoiled the film for lots of people. It's your fault. You're years old. There you go. So that's Top Gear. Top Gear, the series has been okay. I think the interviews go on too long, like you guys have said in the past.
Way too long. They're always the same format. They're just so boring to watch. It's always the same format.
Yeah, and also, it goes 1-1 and it goes to the lap, doesn't it? It's like, oh god.
Yeah, I mean, what was the first car you drove? I drove a really bad car. Yeah, I drove a really bad car. It was this car. And then so, right, okay, not interested. I just want to see your laps. I just want to tell us about your new movie and then get on with your lap. We don't need to know what old car you apparently drove. That's probably a lie. You drove it on one occasion or something. I don't know. But yeah. And also, we have Patrick Dempsey in the worst weather. I think what we've seen is that unfortunately their dirt racing idea is brilliant in the dry, but it's appalling in the wet. It really was awful seeing that car get around. They also cut it as well. I'm sure the car got stuck.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I think it did add something new to the celebrity interview, because that was always the bit that most people probably skipped. But they need to sort out the actual interview segment. Like when they try and force the audience into voting for which car they prefer. I doubt many of them really care.
Exactly. None of that really matters, does it? So Top Gear. Let's have a quick roundup on that. Top Gear season 1. I would say it's shown some promising ideas. It hasn't tied it all together yet, but they've got a lot of positive stuff to work with. Getting rid of Chris Evans is good, but I don't think
he was by far the weakest link.
he was by far the weakest link. I think next year, if they take on board shorter interviews, more Chris Harris, more of the guys working together as a team rather than just doing individual reports, there wasn't enough of them doing stuff together and interacting with each other.
No, I thought the challenges were actually the weakest aspect of this series. It just didn't work for me.
No, they didn't. They need next year. They need. I think they did one at the end of them going for a jump. Like it was almost like something they just threw in there, didn't it? It's like, right, guys, damn, we haven't done anything together. Let's quickly do. I know. Let's do the biggest jump. And it was really quite sort of,
it felt very tacked on.
Yeah, very tacked on at the end there. So, it
I
was
would
the
say
only way
that
to put one together.
the car reviews though have been generally excellent. It's a really interesting mix of new cars. I think that's been one criticism, that they haven't really done any sort of negative car reviews. That was always another trademark of Top Gear, the humour when they review a bad car.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was always good when they reviewed something that was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
Yeah, rubbish cars. Let's look at something good, and so you see something. You see a comparison of just how poor it was or something. But again, that's where Jeremy would do something silly like balance a jelly in the car or something. Little things. So I think ideas-wise, they've got the people, but I mean I don't know if they'll turn it all around. But they need to lock down a team and see how it goes.
They didn't destroy any caravans either.
No.
We have to do Carmageddon for that, I think.
Exactly.
That's true.
You need an
In all fairness,
explosion.
like I said before in my column, though, it was trying too hard to be like the old Top Gear.
Yeah.
Overall.
I hope they come back in the second season a bit more of an identity of its own sort of thing, and
I think
get rid of the some say the Stig bit. Just do your own thing, and
the some say the Stig thing I think is done. I don't think it works with them. I'd get rid of the some say the Stig, reduce the interviews. I'd do more of the main guys being together and doing stuff, and then see where we end up in series 2.
I think now they've got
work together more.
Now they've got more freedom. I think we will see an improvement, because from what I've gathered, Chris Evans was quite controlling when it came to sort of creative control and the direction of the show. It was very much his vision. Then it only lasted 6 episodes.
Yeah, I was surprised at that because I remember hearing we've got the season finale coming up. And I'm like, what? We've only had 5 episodes. What do you mean season finale? I thought we were going to get 10, 12 episodes at least.
A very short series, but it was
very
poorly.
For a while.
Well, it was poorly organised. I mean, they've organised it during Euro 2016, so it was competing with the England football and other football, and it was like the worst time slot. I mean, they should have waited until Euro 2016 was over, and I think they thought, we've got Euro 2016, and then if they'd been able to screen it, I think a few weeks earlier, it would have helped them, because we have a summer of sport. We have football, Wimbledon, Olympics.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe it was a case of just sort of knocking out the first season as quickly as they could, took on the criticism, and get on with the second season.
That's it, and I think that's exactly what they've done. They've said, let's learn, get it up, and then we can get crack on with next season. May even have one on by Christmas, a Christmas special. So
they're filming. They're filming in September, apparently, the next season.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So I'd imagine, hopefully, by the end of the year.
Well, they're planning it now, so it'll all be scripted and planned now, ready for filming then. Yeah. So they're on it now. So that'll be interesting.
Although there's only been 6 episodes, but it's been like that for a long time actually with Top Gear, because of this budget cuts. But on average, they only did something like 12 or 14 a year, whereas about 5 years ago it was 10 episodes per season. We were spoiled.
Absolutely, I mean, it has cut down quite a bit, but it is hugely expensive to produce, and I think it depends on how well this sells in terms of around the world selling, in terms of how much budget they have ongoing. But I mean, they're not paying the guys what they were paying them, so that automatically would have dropped the salaries right down the table.
Yeah.
I'll roll on the Grand Tour.
Exactly.
Is that October?
Nothing official announced yet apart from autumn, so
Okay.
could be anything. We should probably talk about more racing games.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where should we go next?
Good question.
Well, I'll kick off. As I was saying earlier, anyway. I'm sorting my flight now to Gamescom, so I'll be at Gamescom for the day in the summer. Just doing the one day, so I'll only be there for a few hours. If you're listening to this, do let me know what games you'd like to see. But obviously, there's not many there this year, so just a quick note on that. Obviously, we're expecting Forza Horizon 3, which is the same demo we've seen at E3. We're expecting Gran Turismo Sport again. I'm expecting the same demo at E3. Be nice to see a new one though, because they really need to show off a bit more. Hopefully a new circuit. Perhaps they'll show, I don't know, they'll show Nürburgring, so I don't know what else they can show really. We'll wait and see, but it'd be nice to see something new and some improvements there. I think other than that, Assetto Corsa will be there. Obviously it'll be just before launch. And we're going to try to see if we get some footage of Ride 2, something like that maybe. But at the moment, it's very difficult to say. There's no surprises there this year. And F1, I think, is out that weekend. Yeah, is out that week, F1.
Oh, wow.
So I'll be at Gamescom on the... So, unfortunately, filming some of them like F1, there's really not a lot of point in a way, because you guys will probably have a copy of it before I even go to the show. And so, I think really it's just going to be a case of wandering around, meeting a few developers and checking out some of the new VR stuff as well. I mean, we'll be closing on the launch of PlayStation VR, and I think testing some of the VR content will be key for what we're trying to, to see how it looks in terms of Gran Turismo Sport. I really would like to try that, and also WRC6 will probably be there. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting one to try at the show as well. But in terms of racing gamers, there's not many surprises right now. We know what's coming. It just depends on if they have new demos and tracks to try out. And other than that, I think indie-wise, I'll be looking at some of the new indie racing games that are there. Kartcraft, whatever, Kart Sim, whatever they're calling it, will probably be there again. Whatever games, like I say, it's taken years. And other than that, one thing I was thinking the other day is it would be really nice to see some more, just changing the subject, but Dirt Rally DLC. They really need a new track. I'm just gonna throw that in there because I've been playing Dirt Rally recently, but I'll just throw that in there. And it'd be nice if they showed something at the show or something new that we can look forward to for something like Dirt Rally. But no, other than that, it's just going to be an interesting wander, I think, this year, and see what comes up that could be of interest. But I'll be keeping my ear to the ground, and no doubt you guys will have the news, and if we hear of anything, I'll be straight on the stand to get an interview with developers and see what we can find out. But only a short day. I'm going out there and coming back the same day on good old Ryanair, so I'll be squeezing into my seat. It'll be a long day. I do some of these shows, and often I get like a 7 a.m. flight, so I leave my house at 4 in the morning. I'll fly to a destination, I'll film for the day, and sometimes fly back the same day. It's long 23-hour days, but it means that we get you guys some great content. And sometimes I'm out there for a couple of days or something if there's a lot to do. And last year we had a few days out there, but there was a lot more there last year. And we had Need for Speed and everything else. This year it's pretty quiet comparatively, so I think it depends if we can get some early access to some stuff, but it's very difficult.
See the pain he goes through to get us all this. Ryanair isn't exactly tall man friendly.
No, it's EasyJet are the normal choice airline, and it's a very tight squeeze for me. But I don't mind. I get out there, I get all the filming done, I get the mic and the questions and the camera in front of people, and I bully my way onto machines and jump queues and everything else to get the footage I do. I don't know if some of them will be helping me this year, because Forza probably won't, because they'll say, oh, you didn't like it last year, we're not letting you on. Who knows? I mean, I go up to the stands, I try getting on the games, I try getting the permission to film everything we can. But I'd say what's changed with the industry now is that a lot of big games publishers have their like their favourite YouTubers and influencers and stuff like that, and so you have this sort of package of of YouTubers that get access to everything. It's really hard now as an independent to get access to the different games. But listen, I've been around the block of this industry a long time. I know who to speak to try getting in. So I just try and blag my way in, and I managed to do it. But yeah, either way, I think we've got a lot of great racing games coming out, so we'll endeavour to get some good footage, and I'll run around that hall for the day and see if I can find stuff. I will say though, won't be doing the consumer days again in a hurry. Did it last year.
Oh, yeah.
First time doing the consumer days, and oh my god, I mean, it was just it was a wall of people. But what you don't get in the videos, as I say, is the heat.
The heat,
it was like 100 degrees in there, with thousands of people, and I was dehydrating. I mean, it was just unbelievable dehydration I had out there. I was bottles of water here, there, and everywhere, and I think that's the thing you don't get from the video coverage. It's like, yeah, it's nice, but it's really not a nice place to play games at all. I mean, I look at it and I think, would I want to queue for 4 hours to play Call of Duty? Well, it's as simple as this. I get a queue jump, or I don't play it.
Nice, but your game is sort of becoming a bit like that lately. I remember the queue for Battlefront last year was probably about that.
It is getting like that, sadly. As it's moved up there, it's becoming bigger in terms of a show, but unfortunately there's just not enough screens, and to be fair, they've had, I mean, EA, I remember the last Battlefield 4, they had a massive display at Eurogamer with like 40 TVs there and everything, 40 people at a time, but people have like a 15-20 minute match and there's 500 people in the queue. 40 people isn't that many. So yeah, I mean, if you think, well, but like I say, Gamescom is just like 6 hours, 7 hours. Some kids were waiting till 4 or 5 in the afternoon, having been there from 8 in the morning to play the game they wanted to play. And that was
one game.
Play one game of Call of Duty, and I'm sometimes I hover in and I just avoid the queue and just walk in the door. And I speak to somebody, and work my way in and just pretend I belong. I just look at it and think, wow, I just wouldn't, even when I was like 18, I wouldn't have done that. I mean, I used to go to shows back then, and I remember a big one was, there's only 2 times I've had to queue like that for a little while, and it was September '95. It was pre-release of PlayStation, and I remember we were queuing to play Wipeout for the first time. We had these massive screens with Wipeout and Destruction Derby. I was literally, oh my god, this is the first time anyone in the world had seen
the future.
And we were queuing, and this guy was taking ages. This guy in front of me was like doing like 10-minute laps. He was bouncing off each wall. He could not play Wipeout to save his life. Could not play games. And I was like, somebody please get rid of this guy. And then
you probably would have done better off in Destruction Derby though, wouldn't you?
Oh, and then at the end of that game, I clicked restart, and I'm like, no, it's excruciating. And the other time I think was actually, it was at E3 in 2001, and I was over there, and they had these little booths with GameCubes, and it was the first time we'd seen the GameCube. I'd seen it before anyone, but that's another story. And so I queued up in this dark sort of cinema thing they had. It was really small, but you went in there and they had giant screens, like 80-inch sort of projected screens what you played your GameCube on. And I remember that they had Star Wars there, and it was amazing, and I thought, it just took me ages. And then I remember waiting for like 40 minutes to get on there, and I got on there in the end, and I was playing it, and then someone came over and took out the disc and said, I'm sorry, you've got to change it over. And I had a massive row with the team. I let them know that I was extremely unhappy and that my company had spent a load of money with Nintendo. And it was quite funny at the time. Well, and funny looking back, not at the time. I was furious. I was well into it though. But yeah, I don't queue for games. At the end of the day, if there's a queue, I say no. And we've been, we work hard at VVV to get the footage we do for people. When I always try to get in there, but there's going to be a time when I say sometimes, if I have to wait 2 hours to film Forza Horizon, that's just not going to happen. I walk up and I try and get the footage, but if they say no, you know, it's 2 hours wait, then you just have to say, well, I'll film it, I'll zoom on a camera from a distance. But it sometimes is difficult filming.
I think my worst was my first ever look at the Oculus Rift at Eurogamer a few years ago. I think that was about a 2 hour wait. Yeah, and I got about 5 minutes at best, probably, on it.
Yeah. It was a quite, and you know, that was a bit frustrating because we were actually part of the Eurogamer network at the time, featured in their publication at the show, and they wouldn't give us a queue jump. You know, absolutely crazy. But yeah, so it is a bit of a pain, but it's worth it. You know, when it's something unique like that. I mean, that's something which you can't see from a distance. You have to wear the headset. You know, with Call of Duty or something else, and Call of Duty is a tricky one because they wall it off. But with some of them, you can see them from a distance. I just want to see the games playing quite often. I don't need to play them. I can stand behind someone watching them play and get a really good idea on what it's like and whether I like it or not. But generally speaking, what can I say? I've been in this a long time, so I've played a lot of games pre-release, and it's good sometimes, but sometimes it's nice when you can, you know, play it in a quiet room. Like sometimes at Gamescom we play in, they have separate rooms and hotels set up for journalists, and we go there, play the games, and I managed to get some footage and stuff like that. But it's never easy. It's never easy at these shows, but I'll do my best. So getting all that sorted, and then other than that, we've got. Obviously, guys, we got the games, we got the Carmageddon stuff that you guys are working on. So I look forward to seeing how that comes along in the next few days. I've got a Dirt Rally video and a couple of Project Cars videos, and then Kevin, you've got a couple of the same. And Martin, hopefully, we'll see your interview and maybe a retro video as well on Carmageddon. I look forward to seeing that as well. And I think that's pretty much it for this week, isn't it, guys? I don't know if there's anything else that you guys have seen or.
I think one interesting story we ran on the site this week was about Gran Turismo, where Kazunori came out saying developing for the PS3 era was a nightmare, which probably says a lot as to why it took so long for them to come out at the time.
Well, it's interesting. He actually said that quote in our interview. That's actually in our Kazunori interview, and if it's not, it probably should have been, because that was actually said in front of us. And I found it strange. I found it strange that, well, that's funny, as because we just looked at Gran Turismo Sport and it looked a bit dull. And yet Gran Turismo 6 looked pretty damn amazing for the PS3.
Yeah, I mean, so if you compare them side by side, there's not an awful lot of difference.
No,
so
not in the kind of.
PlayStation 4 is not a nightmare to develop for. Well, what's been going on, you know?
Yeah, why is it taking so long? It's taken 3 years to develop, something that looks quite basic and without the core package there. So, when I say 3 years, I mean the developing is more like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
they don't just start developing when Gran Turismo 6 comes out. But it does make you wonder, if it's so easy to develop for, why doesn't it look so much better, and why isn't there so much more content in there? Very, very strange.
Yeah, it is a weird one. But I guess to agree, it does explain as to why it's. I mean, Gran Turismo 5 was a notoriously long development time. I think it was delayed. Was it almost a couple of years in the end, something like that?
Yeah, it was heavily delayed. I mean, I really like the what do you call it? The one that came out in 2007. The demo.
HD.
Yeah, no, the demo. Prologue. I really like that Prologue. Demo. I thought it looked fantastic, and then the final game sort of disappointed me compared to the Prologue. So I kind of wonder what they do sometimes. You know, when you're looking at other companies that kick out a game every year, I think Forza Motorsport is the best example. They have a system. They have to kick out games all the time, and they make the progress. You know, I'm not keen on the handling side of things, but in terms of the package, they do an amazing job. Now,
they're leading the way at the moment, aren't they? In terms of visuals and overall number of cars, and like you say, a package,
car selection.
You're going to get quality with the Forza franchise, whereas with Gran Turismo, it's more of a sort of mixed bag.
You're lucky if you get any cars with interiors in Gran Turismo.
Well,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was poor, and
It was.
and so many of the same car, copy and paste, and all that.
Yeah, the
So
whole what was it?
yeah,
What was it they called it? The standard cars. Like that was one of the most baffling
Yeah.
game design
mm,
decisions ever.
Originally, I was actually for the standard cars in GT5 because I had the sort of idea that it was nice to get as many cars as possible. But then I totally reversed my position when GT6 came out. I thought no, they don't. This is letting down the premium feel of the Gran Turismo. There's different levels of quality in a lot of areas in Gran Turismo 5 and 6, and you need to level it out, and it all needs to be the same. And with GT5 and 6, I think that the handling was was better in the arcade mode than the GT mode. You had the premium and standard cars. Some cars had damage, some had sort of small damage, and others had sort of very basic damage system. It was very
Very consistent.
inconsistent. Yeah, it was a bit of a mess really, and so I reversed my opinion on the standards. I just thought to get rid of them and get on with it. But obviously they're not there in GT Sport. But I think with GT Sport, what's going to be disappointing me is probably going to be the lack of the more sort of lower end cars, like the Japanese, the little box cars and things like that. Which were fun to drive. When you start a GT game, you more often than not you'll go for a cheap Japanese car, and often you'll find with people that's where they have the most fun with the game. And I feel like with GT Sport everything's a bit serious, and they'll probably do away with a lot of those cars in favour of the more powerful stuff. And it just won't have that character that old Gran Turismo games have. That's why for me that GT Sport is not per se a proper Gran Turismo installment.
I think too. You also got the fact that you just know there's going to be an overabundance of concept cars. The GT Vision cars.
Yeah, which we don't really care for, do we?
I think this is where Assetto Corsa, for example, has the edge. It favours quality over quantity, and it actually has cars you want to drive.
Mm.
Yeah,
that's right. Cars you want to drive. Cars that have an essence, something special about them.
I was saying that Kevin seems happy with just driving Japanese boxes.
Well, I like the quirkiness of Gran Turismo. Yeah. If it loses that in GT Sport, I think that's a big part of its identity. That's sort of gone astray.
No other game starts you out in a Suzuki Cappuccino.
No, exactly.
It's great fun to drive if you tune them up.
You would find a car in Gran Turismo that you perhaps never heard of, never seen on British roads or anything like that, and then you say, I really like this little car. You tune it up and you'd really force it to go as fast as you could possibly go with it, just to keep up with some of the sports cars. And then you'd really sort of modify it. So I really like that, and I'd stick with that car as long as possible. But then then you find that your next step that really takes you all the way. But I really like it.
It has something for everyone as well. It's not just it's not just the same classes of car. It has a great variety. Whereas, like Kevin said, they seem to be doing away with that a bit in GT Sport.
Yeah, because the big problem is what happens is with esports, and we can go back and talk about VVV esports, is you have leaderboard cars. They're the cars that are the fastest in each rank on the leaderboard. Now, most people, when they play Forza Motorsport or whatever, will play with leaderboard cars because they want to do well and be competitive. But then occasionally you find guys who'd say, you know what, I might not be in the fastest car, but I'm in a slower car, but I love to make it go maximum speed and see what it can do. And sometimes they do amazing things and then beat the leaderboard cars, and then that quirky one becomes a leaderboard car. But I think it's I get where you're coming from. It's nice to have that range in terms of Gran Turismo. It's nice to have that journey of growing yourself, and as I say, GT Sports aiming at a completely different audience. The eSport audience. They're trying their best to announce that audience. And there's a bit of news actually we don't actually have on the site with this chap like Darren Cox, who's announced he's creating an eSport team, and he used to be marketing chap at Nissan behind GT Academy and stuff like that, and now saying it's becoming a business. Well, I mean, I say where esports concerned, I've investigated esports inside out. I can't see the business for the gamers behind it at all. I see how games companies sell games. I've seen how games companies sell hardware, but I've not seen how gamers benefit from it. A very handful of gamers might benefit when there are millions of gamers that get nothing for millions of hours of play. So I think at the moment it sort of leads people on a little bit in thinking that all this esports is becoming a business. Well, no, it's just a business of marketing games and marketing hardware and stuff like that to people who will never benefit from it and will never maximize it. So, you know, that's something which I keep an eye on, but we'll wait and see how it develops, and we'll see how. I mean, again, we're Gran Turismo eSport. I don't know what kind of coverage we'll do on it. Whether I'll get into it myself, we'll wait and see. But either way, it's a big game, and there'll be loads of coverage on it. So we'll definitely be all over it.
Yeah. So elsewhere, we've had an advert, or two adverts actually, released for NASCAR Heat Evolution. A few days ago they released a 30-second advert, and then today, or yesterday, I'm not sure, they released an extended one. So, you know, very much a cheese fest, very sort of American style advert, and you get a sort of little bit of, only a glimpse of gameplay. So we haven't really seen the game. Of course, it's not coming to the UK, unfortunately, so we won't be able to get any videos done on that. But no, it could be a good game. Just have to wait and see. I mean, it's probably been a long time since the last decent NASCAR game, so I'm sure fans will be hoping that this returns to sort of former glories.
The license it's interesting. The license has switched developers so many times now.
Yeah, it needs to stay with one, and it needs to be good, doesn't it? So
yeah, I forget who did it last time. They stuck with it for a few years, but I don't think they were very well received. That's the one, yeah.
Doing it before, but yeah, it wasn't really going anywhere, was it?
A NASCAR game.
Yeah, it was very strange. I mean, I visited the studio and saw the making of it and the testers and did a little tour. Again, that was a whole series of videos I made, which unfortunately never got made public. But I interviewed all the developers, and they were working on Auto Club Revolution at the time as well. Whatever happened to that? I mean,
yeah, what did happen to that?
I have no idea, but.
There's meant to be some big revolutionary update that I'm not sure actually happened.
Auto Club Revolution. I'm going to have a little search on the internet while we're having it. I have no idea.
I don't remember seeing it in for a while.
Yeah. It's still there. It does still exist.
It is still alive.
So I mean I don't know. There was meant to be a massive update for it in 2013.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I mean we're going back. You know, I mean I was there doing a big feature on it, and then yeah, there were some complications, and the videos never got done. You know, so that was it basically. But yeah, it didn't seem like it went anywhere.
That's a bit of Slightly Mad Studios' World of Speed. We've had nothing on that for quite a long time.
Yeah, I think the social media's gone quiet as of, I think it's about March. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's been canned. You know.
Yeah, I mean they're probably better off in fairness, like focusing their resources on Project Cars 2, since the first one was a success. Although I guess at the time it did sound like a pretty good alternative to Project Cars, because obviously
more of a sort of arcade sort of alternative.
Yeah, exactly. A good
street racing style.
Yeah, you know, in multiplayer, in person, it was quite a bit of fun. But it was
that kind of Project Gotham racing vibes almost.
Well, you know, so I mean, you know, it was fun enough. I just don't know. I think, you know, it was always a budget release. I mean, it's never going to be a proper full price release. But
I think it had a team-based system, didn't it? You had like a red team and a blue team, and there'd be sort of team-based racing. So it was an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, we did some coverage on it. I did some racing, did okay on it, enjoyed it. But yeah, it's just sort of. I mean, I suppose we were talking about Wreckfest earlier, and you know, Wreckfest is another one. You know, like you say, it was really good in 2013, and then it just, you know, it just sort of lost its way, and I haven't played it since. I should get back onto it, have a tryout again soon. I will set up the triple screen at some point again soon. It's not set up at the moment, hence we haven't had much triple screen on the channel because the VR is set up at the moment. But and it's a massive pain transferring from VR to triple screen. It really is not a quick process, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, talking of canned games as well, we also recently had the apparent cancellation of 90s Arcade Racer, or at least for PC and Wii U.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a big surprise. PC was
It
the one that
was.
surprised me, you know, and I would say that people who funded the Kickstarter must be very unhappy, bearing
Yeah.
in mind the formats, especially the PC format. I can understand Wii U, but I can't understand PC. You know, why would you not allow it on PC? It's very strange.
It does seem quite well suited to the Wii U, in fairness, but obviously the market is just not there anymore. I mean, it was supposed to come out 3 years ago, so...
It amazes me that Wii U could run it, really. I mean, there was quite a lot of detail there. Maybe it runs much better on the new consoles, but I still don't understand why you know, we're saying that. I mean, the Wii U runs. What's the racing game that came out before Christmas? The futuristic one.
Fast Racing Neo.
Fast Racing Neo. It runs
Yeah.
that, and it's very much a visual style that's similar to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just
It's that game, it's
surprised
very good.
about the lack of a PC version. That does surprise me. It's a little bit concerning, really. It makes you wonder what the developers are doing, because it looked to me like it was complete 2 years ago. So,
Yeah, I know. I mean, weirdly as well, there's been no official confirmation either. It's all
No.
just rumour.
yeah.
But
Yeah, so-
apparently it's been renamed to, I think it's like 90s Arcade GP or something like that.
Right.
It was spotted at some show, but again, the publisher hasn't announced anything at all, and I've tried to get in touch with them myself, and they just don't respond.
No. Yeah. It happens. It happens, unfortunately. I mean, I reach out to companies for news all the time, and it depends on if they want to let us know what's going on or not. Some do, some don't, but just keep badgering people, and eventually we'll get some answers. But yeah, it's a game I'm looking forward to, so you know, I'd like to try that out at some point.
It's going to be looking forward to for 3 years since it was announced.
It was the only reason to buy Wii U. That reason is over.
Yeah, no, I have, and it's been cancelled. Great.
Yeah. Oh, you've got a Wii U.
I do indeed, yes.
Oh, blimey. Right, Martin. You know, you need some Fast Racing Neo videos.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
Will happen.
Yeah.
So elsewhere
what's
then,
gonna
should we turn our attention to the Forza Motorsport 6 Mystery Car Pack? It's coming out
yes.
next week, Tuesday, July 12th, and we know absolutely nothing about it. So all they've teased is prepare to drive something you've never driven before in a Forza game.
Intriguing.
Get hyped.
What could it be? Could it be a go-kart?
I'm thinking it might be something off-roady because
Could be
of the
off-roady.
Forza Horizon 3 off-road stuff.
I've just looked on our Facebook page. We posted the story, and we sort of invited people to try and guess what it is. One person here is saying bikes, and another person's saying truck racing.
Yeah. I would lean more towards the truck than the bike stuff, personally.
Yeah,
But who knows? Who knows what it's going to be? I mean, they've released some really sort of off-the-wall stuff recently with the Fallout, Chrysler, I think it was called, Rocket or something. So, you know, you just never know what you're going to get.
They actually said it's going to be a car pack.
Yes, a car pack, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, probably not going to be bikes then.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's getting a bit late now, so yeah.
Very difficult to know, isn't it? Because they've covered so many.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I've
right.
never done go-karts before. I mean, it depends if they can do more open-wheel cars. I don't know if there'll be much of that on there. Off-road is something they've not done before, and rally type stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what?
Where would they drive them? Yeah.
We haven't posted on this on the website yet, but I've just remembered. I think recently it's been confirmed that free-wheeled cars will be in Forza Horizon 3.
Ah.
So maybe could be something
Maybe.
in Forza Motorsport.
Yeah.
Reliant Robins, anyone?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, please.
Rolling them over. That would be fun. It would work well, you know. Forza Football Challenge
got
or
the-
something.
They've got the Top Gear license as well, don't forget, so never know. Could be the
Okay.
Reliant Rialtos we had in the new series or something like that.
Yeah. I think that would work well. Yeah.
So if that is the case, you've heard it here first.
Huh.
Well, that would work well.
So I think I think to round off, one last thing, we had a new release last week as well. Something slightly different. It's actually a mobile racing game. We don't really cover mobile racing games that often.
Yes.
We had the release of CSR 2.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
which is notable for they keep marketing this, the fact that it has console quality graphics on a mobile game.
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
see
does it
any
really have
footage of it.
console quality graphics?
Which is the thing. What they don't then mention is it's a drag racing game, basically.
Yeah, it's as simple as it gets, isn't it, in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
automotive stuff?
I mean, you see the
It
cars
looks
next to each other. It's done in a way that's, you know, the garage looks nice. It's
Yeah.
a nice. It's got a nice sort of where's my head? You know, sort of mode where you look at the car, Auto Vista. It's got a nice Auto Vista mode to it. But the actual gameplay itself is, you know, it's quite basic, isn't it? It's just rev and change gear.
There is actually one more thing. Aqua Motor Racing Utopia goes early access on the 13th, so that'll be Wednesday, next Wednesday. I don't believe they've revealed a price point yet, but apparently it's going to be like a third off the usual price. I don't think they've disclosed many details, but the game does run at 60 frames, 1080p. And you know, it looks like potentially a bit of fun. They've got a first-person viewpoint in there as well.
Looks
and yeah, some of the levels are very sort of wave race like, and you know, got some more moodier levels as well. So it's quite an interesting mix of environments and visual styles. So yeah, it looks pretty decent.
The wave race game we've been waiting for, I don't know, but it certainly looks good. It's got that wave race vibe about it. And more wave race is no bad thing. I can't believe Nintendo haven't done something with that license themselves, you know.
Yeah.
But either way, it's good to see, and I look forward to trying it out at some point.
Same with F-Zero, they're just neglecting their racing franchises apart from Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Very strange, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing I'm finding boring about Nintendo now, though, is, you know, I was a big Nintendo collector, and I've got bored with them because it's just Mario this and Mario that and Zelda, and just the same two brands, really, on everything. And I think, you know, and Star Fox has lost its way. They don't know how to make a Star Fox game. The best one was on the SNES, and after that, it's never recaptured that again. The N64 one was fun, but it wasn't nearly as good as the SNES one was in its day. It's not about comparing it now. It's about when that SNES game came out, our jaws hit the floor, and when we heard that soundtrack that was amazing and like a film, we were all like, oh my god. When the N64 one came out, the same players were all like, oh really? That's a bit of a shame. They've turned it into a children's TV show, and it just wasn't that great. Silly tank rolling along the floor and other things. It, you know, wasn't what it should have been. Played it, completed it, did it all, everything else, but it wasn't what it could have been. So yeah, Nintendo brands wise, it seems they focus on certain brands, but you know, that's what the modern Nintendo fan wants, and it's very different from the Nintendo fan of the 90s, because we're all a bit older now. And I think it's like Mario Kart. You know, Mario Kart got quite gimmicky, and I think no, what we really need is a back to basics Mario Kart. Basic karts, basic characters, basic weapons, awesome battle mode maps. Online should be the best thing ever, and you know, I think just, you know, they have their audience they sell to, and that's that really, and that's the Nintendo audience that don't care how good some of the games are. They'll just buy them anyway, you know, and that's all there is to it. And obviously, some are absolute gems, but sometimes I think it would be nice to have a bit more creativity in terms of the brands. You know, let's see a new Pikmin adventure. Let's see a new Star Fox game that's awesome. A new F-Zero game, and also, you know, there's other things they can do with Donkey Kong and everything else. But there are other characters. I don't think there's even done much with Metroid, have they? I mean, there's not been a Metroid game since the GameCube, is there? I don't know. I mean, I think there's one on the Wii, but I think a new Metroid game would be great as well. And there's loads of different characters. If you dug into Nintendo's history, you could dig them out. But these days, it is just sort of the standard focus.
Yeah,
we're still waiting
safe.
We're waiting for news on the NX at the moment. No one knows what the Nintendo NX is, what it's going to be. They're saying, oh, we don't care about specs, which is concerning because it tells you that they're looking at releasing a budget console. So it depends what the console is. You know, there's all kinds of rumours of what it could be, but you know, nobody really knows yet. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I just hope they market it a bit better, because I remember when the Wii U was revealed, I didn't even know it was a new console, because all they showed was the controller. It looked like an expansion for the Wii.
Yeah, yeah, again, no idea at the moment, so we'll hold judgment on anything there with Nintendo. I mean, it could be amazing, it could be a breakthrough, but then again, the Wii, I was never really a Wii fan, you know.
No,
so,
normally.
it was fun for 5 minutes. Wii Sports was okay, but I quickly got really bored with it and wouldn't invest in it as a console. So I always wondered why they didn't just release it as a controller for the other consoles. I thought that would have been a great idea rather than being a standalone console. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to wait and see then, see what happens with the NX. Right, should we wrap this up?
Yep.
That's about it now. Yeah, I think we've covered everything.
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah. Longest podcast yet.
It is actually, yeah.
But it's good to get through everything. And other than that,
well done to you if you've listened to us waffle on for the past however long it's been.
Do like and subscribe. We've not mentioned it to the end of the video, so if you're one of the 10 people still listening this far into the video, do like and subscribe and get other people to like and subscribe as well. Well, the subscribe bit, because it's important. It really helps us to get more subscribers. So that would all be really handy.
Indeed.
And Martin,
so
I'll hand it to you to finish off.
Yes, do like and subscribe because we can't say that enough at the moment. It always helps. But yeah, thanks as ever for listening. But that's it from us, and we'll see you again next time.